Story 1. I heard my in-laws talking about getting my wife back together with her ex. I'm sorry if I write something incorrectly. English is not my first language, and I'm pretty horrible at it. I, 35 male, have been with Abby, 35 female, for 13 years now. Every day that goes by, I love her more, and we're even expecting our first baby. For the holidays, we always stay 2 to 3 months visiting my wife's family, but the problem is that this year, all the family was really excited, saying that Alan is coming. In all the years in the family, I never heard of an Alan, and my wife didn't even care about it, so I thought it was just some cousin. But the famous Alan was my wife's ex and first love. The man lives in Europe, but Abby's family still have contact with him and even invited the man to the house now he's in the country. I try to get along with Alan, but the man just ignores me and takes every chance to get closer with my wife, making jokes or talking about the past. I didn't take it personally because I don't want to look jealous, but lately he's been coming every day to visit the family and Abby's family and started comparing his accomplishments to mine. They're all big fans of Alan, and I honestly feel jealous of that because they're treating him better than me. 2 days ago, I heard my mother-in-law and brother-in-law talking about how nice it would have been for Abby to stay with Alan because he's a smart man. What hurt me the most was hearing my brother-in-law say that he can try to get Alan and Abby back together, and my mother-in-law just laughed, saying it would be good to go on a trip to Europe every year and not to the countryside with the peasant. Talking about me because I live in a farm with my wife just because she always dreamed to live in that kind of quiet environment. In fact, now that I'm no longer blindfolded, I started to notice how my brother-in-law makes too many comments to my wife about how great Alan is, although Abby never says kind things about Alan, and I think she even treats him like he's a child. I don't feel comfortable being here knowing that they see me as a dumb peasant, and it's horrible to see how they try to include Alan in the family when they still treat me like I'm just a casual boyfriend of Abby's, but my wife only sees her family these months of the year, and I don't want to ruin that or put that kind of stress on her since she's pregnant. I feel like I'm in some kind of rom-com, but I'm in the role of the bad husband and protagonist leaves for the handsome CEO, haha. Okay, first off, how absolutely just cruel and gross of the brother-in-law and mother-in-law for saying that kind of crap. Like, what is wrong with them? And also, why can't they just understand that Abby is happy? Like, just, what miserable people. But the big thing that gets me is if Alan is actually on board with this, how pathetic is Alan? 13 years! The writer of this and Abby have been together, which means her and Alan have not been a thing for bare minimum 13 years. I don't remember the names of some people I was interested in when I was 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I'd be 27. Yeah, I went on a couple dates from dating sites in that year. I guarantee you I don't remember the name of at least one of those people. How are you still hanging on to feelings like this after over 13 years, Alan? Because if you are, wow, between you and the writer of this, one of you's pretty pathetic, and it's not the person who owns a quaint, lovely farm. Story 2. I asked my girlfriend's father for his blessing to propose, and he said no. Some background. We've been in a relationship for 5 years and living together for 4, and this is the best, most satisfying relationship I have had in all my life. She works in the healthcare industry, and her kindness towards those in need and less privileged than her is what drew me to ask her out in the first place. In the last 4 years between us, there have been some light fights and only one big fight. The fight happened in October 2014. She planned for lunch with Carl, which I had to miss because of a work-related emergency. He called me later that night saying that I don't show him the respect he deserves and I'm always trying to get out of family events because I don't want to be around him. Which is not true because half of the planning and organizing on his birthday was on me and it was a big event. In the morning, I told my girlfriend about his call and she brushed it off as him being intoxicated. The next weekend, when we went to her parents' place for family dinner, Carl was extremely hostile towards me, but I kept silent about it, until he said that I should not have missed lunch. Every other Sunday is family dinner at her folks' place, and I rarely miss it, so I didn't think it was that big a deal. I apologized to him and said that I would make up for it in some way. At the next dinner, I bought a bunch of smart wearable accessories for him because girlfriend suggested he was interested in them. He refused to accept the gift, and when I insisted, he walked out saying he needed some air. I had no clue what was going on, and my girlfriend's mom was mortified, apologizing to me over and over again for Carl's behavior. When we got home, I asked my girlfriend if there was something going on which she was not telling me. At first, she tried to brush it off, but then she said that it was my fault for not seeing that her father was not interested in being buddies and wanted my respect, not friendship. This was a complete surprise to me because I never really thought of him as anything more than her father. We would just watch the game together sometimes and chat about it later, but that was the extent of our social interaction. Girlfriend said I needed to earn his respect, and I told her I had done nothing wrong. That's when the fight started. But a few days later, Carl called me and said he liked the watch and other accessories. That's his way of declaring truce, I guess. After that, I was always extra careful never to miss any event with him. Last June, my girlfriend's mother died, and it was an incredibly difficult time for everyone. I tried to be as supportive towards the whole family as I could. I cut down my work hours to spend more time with them. Girlfriend and I started cooking the family dinner at his place because she thought it would be better for him to see the house alive with people again. And we made it an every week event for a while just to spend more time with him. Multiple times we made extra effort to host family events, and once we even flew his elder sister over for his birthday. I'd thought he would warm up to me a little, but I guess I was wrong, which brings us to today. Girlfriend is away for the week on work-related stuff, so I planned the whole proposal. I was going to decorate our apartment like a planetarium with stars and planets and write, "Will you marry me?" and the stars. It's from Friends she is obsessed with. I wanted to start the preparations with his blessing because that way he would feel good about me asking him first and he'd feel included also. I planned a lunch with him for today to ask for his blessing. I told him how much respect I had for him and that I wish one day I could be as good a father as he was. Then, when I asked for his blessing for the marriage, he blew up. He was absolutely livid, saying that her daughter deserves a better man and that he never really liked me much and had always hoped the relationship would end. He said all the butt kissing I was doing last year has shown that I just wanted to appear like a good man to my girlfriend and didn't mean any of that. I was so shocked because this is not how I expected it to go at all. I left him still spewing hate and went to one of my friends' places. Told him and his wife everything, but they're just as shocked as I am. I spent the day at their place and got home about 2 hours ago. Not sure how to proceed now or even what to do. Should I tell my girlfriend that her father said no? Should I proceed as if nothing has happened? For now, I'm drinking and playing video games. What should I do? I say you proceed with the proposal and sucks to him. I'm sorry, but if he's going to put up that many barriers to earning respect for him and not give you some idea of what he wants, no matter what you do, it's never going to be good enough for him. It sounds like he is just determined to dislike you. And if that's the case, sucks to him. Propose anyway, and if he has a problem with it, then too bad. Who cares? I'm sorry, but you have done enough, and if he's going to interpret that as just butt kissing and not genuine, then that's his problem. At this point, you seem to be very much in love, and your, I hope now, fiance seems to be very much in love with you, so yeah, to heck with him. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for marrying my sister's ex? Me, 27 female, and my sister, 29 female, have been fighting recently for something that I thought got resolved a long time ago. I've debated posting for a week now, but figured someone not directly involved would be good to hear from. A couple months ago, I married my husband, Greg, 29 male, after being together for 4 years. We met each other working at the same office, and I developed this huge crush on him. I was pretty sure he was into me too, so I decided to bring it up to my sister, Alicia. Alicia and Greg had dated in middle school when they were both 13-ish, and because it had been so long and at such a young age, I didn't think there would be an issue, but I still wanted to check. I didn't want to accidentally start dating some long-lost love of her life or something, so I thought I would clear the air by asking. She seemed a bit surprised because I don't think she was expecting to hear about her middle school ex-boyfriend randomly so many years later, but after we talked for a bit, she said she didn't really care. So I thought, cool, I have the go-ahead. I thanked her and moved on with things, and a little while later, me and Greg got together. It's never seemed to be an issue before. We hit all the milestones, and she seemed to be happy for us. When he met my family again, they were a bit surprised, but things were fine. My sister was even one of the bridesmaids and seemed happy for me the entire time. Like, I haven't really thought of them dating in forever because it no longer seems relevant. I mean, she has a husband at this point, so it doesn't seem like a middle school boyfriend would be something to dwell on. We were with my family this Christmas, and things were going just as fine as they usually are until my sister started handing out the presents she had gotten. Now, we don't get each other presents every year, and people in my family typically aren't buying special presents for people they're not close to, so the in-laws don't get screwed or anything because they didn't buy every individual cousin a gift. But during my wedding planning, she said she wanted to get me something special for my first Christmas as a married woman, so it took me off guard. I looked sort of confused for a second, but I didn't want to be a bee on Christmas, so I just smiled and watched everyone open their gifts. Lots of circumstances could cause someone to not be able to get a gift, so it was fine. But after she finished handing things out, she looked at me and said I wasn't getting anything because I had taken enough. I asked her what she meant because, And she said I didn't have to be so weird to plot to take Greg from her. I'll admit, I had a crush on him when I was 11, but I didn't plan my life around dating him one day. I grabbed her and pulled her into the other room, and we started yelling at each other. I definitely said some nasty things because if she had an issue, why wouldn't she bring that up when I directly asked her? We both wound up leaving my parents' house early, and her husband seemed super peed. My mom texted that she was disappointed we fought on Christmas, which, yeah, I get, but it's not like I did it intentionally. She's telling whatever family members will listen about how I stole her boyfriend and they're mad at me, and I don't feel like I could be the a-hole, but I also can't tell. Greg's super peed because she's trying to message him about this, and he doesn't get why this is such an issue. I've tried to speak with her a couple times, and I brought up how I asked her already for permission, but she says I took her off guard. So, am I the a-hole? Your sister is a ridiculous human being. I can't think of anything more ridiculous. Like, if the only thing would be, if while they were dating when they were 13, if Greg did something like unspeakable, just something absolutely horrendous to her that maybe the sister knew about, but that's not the case. Because she's even said, like, you plan to steal Greg from me. What is wrong with you? You were 13. You're adults now, and you're married to someone else. Genuinely, if I was her husband, I'd be like, I'm sorry. Are you upset you're not with Greg? Because that's kind of a problem for me. There's no world in which this should have been an issue at all. You were dating at 13. That doesn't even really register as dating to me. I'm sorry, you're too young. That's not like a really real relationship. That's like a starter relationship. That is a bicycle with training wheels relationship, okay? How can you hang on to that? When you're 13, like, yeah, stuff is real. It feels real. But as you get older, you learn to look back at that and be like, oh yeah, I'm just a different human than I was when I was 13. At, just a few years later, you change so much. This is absurd. So, person who wrote this, you're not the a-hole. Your family saying that you're the a-hole for this is ridiculous. And your sister is out of her mind. Story 4. Today I effed up when I overshared about my ex-wife with a new significant other. I was married for 25 years with 2 now adult sons and divorced legally 6 months ago after a 2+ year separation. I met a woman on Bumble I really clicked with about a month ago. She lives about 2 hours away, so we've only managed to meet in person twice, but there was a real spark. The first date we met in a museum in the late morning and close to the place. Really hit it off. We came off Bumble to be exclusive. The next day, we walked her town, had lunch together, and then some really nice smooching. Our talks were intense and fun. We started to plan a bit of a future together. Then I had a holiday trip planned to meet my sons in another city where they had traveled to spend Christmas with my ex-wife. My ex-wife and I are on good terms, so I was invited to join them and arranged for my own place to stay. It's important to note that in addition to being newly divorced, I am also apparently quite stupid. In the interest of transparency, I would share with my new love interest that my ex A. regretted the divorce she had initiated, B. said she misses me, and the icing on the cake C. that I didn't want to still have feelings for my ex-wife, but I felt protective of her. In talking to this new fascinating woman I've been so lucky to meet, I kept slipping and calling my ex my wife out of habit. During a contentious FaceTime call, she called me on it and I accidentally used the word significant other shortly after. That didn't make it better. Then I had the nerve to ask this lovely woman if she would very much mind my ex-wife staying in my house soon since she was coming into town with my son and would have to find other accommodations for a few days otherwise. This after I had relayed that we're still somewhat affectionate with each other. I was, on the one hand, seriously pursuing this new love interest, and on the other hand, allowing myself to remain inappropriately tethered to my now divorced ex-wife and practically taunting my new love interest. This woman has also raised children, has been divorced for years, and is so much more than I expected to meet at the very start of my dating. But here she was, and I was falling for her fast. But as you've read, I kept messing it up, such as calling her a friend and repeatedly slipping when referring to my ex as my wife. Once I even reacted poorly to something she texted me about the tension this caused, and my defensive response was angry and hurtful to her. Big mistake. It went from a whirlwind romance to a short but potent dose of discord, and I just got the Dear John letter. This woman is so deep and velvety, so smart and funny and beautiful, and I think she liked me. Ladies and gentlemen, today I effed up. Is she better off without me, or should I try to mend things? I think that you were in a committed relationship. I'm assuming probably the whole time that you had kids together and raised them to be an adult. It was a very long relationship. And while you were separated for 2 years and now have been officially divorced for 6 months, that's not a long time to get over what was probably 20 years of your life. What I would say is, if you really like this person, you talk to her and you just explain, hey, I really, really like you, but I am struggling getting out of this relationship, but I know that getting out of it is what I want, and I do want to pursue stuff with you. Maybe we could slow things down, though, because maybe I'm rushing into this and trying to find that comfort of a committed relationship just a little bit too fast, and it's bringing up some old feelings. And I don't want to screw this up, so could we take it a little bit slower? I'll be as open and apparent with you as I can. Call me out when I screw up. Maybe we can make this work. That's the best you can do, I think. And if she doesn't want to pursue that, sorry to say, that's her call to make. Story 5. My cousin loves me and I don't know what to do. I'm sorry for the long post, and I'm sorry if the grammar or anything is incorrect. I'm writing as I'm thinking, so it might be a bit all over the place. For context, my cousin, 26 male, is 6 months older than me, 26 female. Growing up, my mom only had my uncle, so we would often travel 4 to 5 hours to stay at his for the weekends, or sometimes for a week or so in the summer. When my cousin and I were younger, toddlers, it was a running joke how affectionate we were towards each other, constantly hugging and giving each other pecks on the cheek. As we got older, my cousin continued to be affectionate towards me, but I realized it was wrong and wouldn't reciprocate. When we were 11, I remember he started not just trying to kiss me, but also trying to touch me. He also would tell me how he loved me more than a cousin all the time. I always said no and then brushed it off because it was normal at this point. When we got to about 13, we stopped visiting my uncle as much and only visited a handful of times a year. I don't know why. I think we're just getting older and had our own plans, so my mom and uncle didn't bother as much. My uncle also moved house, so there was a spare bedroom for us to stay in, which meant I was rarely left alone with my cousin. So between the ages of 13 to 18, nothing happened, and when we would see each other, he was still loving towards me, but not in that way, if that makes sense. So I thought it had stopped and felt comfortable enough to drive to where my uncle lived, rent an apartment for a long weekend, and invite my 3 cousins to stay in the apartment so we could go drinking in the city together now we were all old enough. The weekend went great, and there were no weird vibes until the last night when my other cousins had to go home and we were left alone in the apartment. I chose to put a movie on after dinner and sat on the other end of the sofa to him. He grabbed my feet and pulled them across his lap and said, "Get comfy, don't sit all awkward." I felt a bit uneasy, but let it go because he was still sat upright on the other end of the sofa to me, and there had been no weird vibes all weekend. In the film, there was some reference to incest between siblings, and I commented that I didn't understand how anyone could see a family member like that, not to mention it's illegal. He said, "It's not illegal if you're cousins, though," and laughed, which made me feel very uncomfortable, but it was said as a joke, so I brushed it off and took that and told myself to chill out, which I now regret. At some point during the film, I must have fell asleep. I half woke up to my cousin laid behind me on the sofa, grinding on my bum and smelling my hair as he did. I froze and kept my eyes shut. I didn't know what to do. I thought all of this had stopped years ago. The only thing I could think to do was pretend to wake up and make it as obvious as possible, then get up and say I was tired and I was going to bed. When I started waking up, he immediately stopped grinding on me and acted as if he'd fallen asleep too. I said I was tired and I was going to bed and just got up and went to my bedroom without looking at him and locked the door. He even had the nerve to fake yawn as I was saying I was going to bed. Since then, I have never let myself be alone with him for more than 5 minutes in a kitchen or something. I always make sure I have someone with me or close by in another room. I have a partner now that I've been with for 7 years and live with. My partner has tried offering for my cousin to stay with us when they visit sometimes, but I always come up with an excuse why he can't. My cousin has distanced himself from me, but when we go to family things or they visit, he still acts as if he has feelings for me. He will try to flirt with me when no one can hear and will be protective and negative about my partner. Again, I just ignore him or tell him to stop when he does this. I haven't told anyone about anything that has ever happened between me and my cousin. I had counseling a few years ago for something unrelated and wanted to bring it up, but felt like I was going to open a can of worms I couldn't close if I did, so I kept my mouth shut. I don't want to ruin my family and almost feel dramatic for feeling so slimy about it all these years later, but I needed to tell someone. It's been 8 years since the apartment, but I still think about it and think about how I could have acted differently or slapped him or something. I think about managing my relationship with him and feel nervous every time I know they're coming to visit or we're going to visit them. I know he hasn't told anyone and never would because my uncle is very protective over me, and my other cousins, all male, act completely normal. This is a throwaway account because I don't want my partner seeing this on my phone. Thanks for letting me vent. If anyone does have any advice, I would be open to it. Gross. Gross, gross, gross. I don't like it. And, okay, you can have your opinions on whether or not cousins can have a romantic relationship. I personally just side with that's too close. I don't like it. If other people want to be like, actually, genetically, it's da-da-da-da-da, or whatever, fine. I'm not going to judge you on your opinions, but I'm not really down for it. So let's ignore that part. Let's say, okay, it's not illegal, and it's okay. Even if that is the case, you have not reciprocated these feelings and flirtations with him. You have tried to shut them down every opportunity you've been given, and he has not respected that. And then, when you were asleep, he assaulted you. And so that makes him gross, and I don't like him. And I think that you should be able to say something. And it won't be great for the family. I don't know who you talk to, but yeah, and if you're not going to say something to the family, then yeah, just do whatever you can to avoid him. And I would also say maybe let your partner know, like being truthful and confiding, like, look, I really don't want him around. He has like an unhealthy fixation on me and it makes me uncomfortable. So please don't try to offer him to stay here. Like, if you can't trust your partner, who can you trust, right? So I don't know. I wish you well, but yeah, your male cousin skeeves me out big time. Ugh. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.